Namaste. We are here with Gautam ji once again for today's podcast. Gautam, thank you so much for your time.
Most welcome, Nick.
It's become the usual drill now. But
Yes.
So, Gautam, today I wanted to talk to you about something where how devotees can utilize this time. It's like a blessing in disguise.
Yes.
So, how they can use this time productively for their meditation, for their spiritual progress, and any other things that you could recommend?
Yes, as you rightly said, Nick, like the great masters, including Ramana Maharshi, have said that the purpose of life is ultimately self realization. You see, the final goal. And now that so many of us are not in our usual routines, especially of working, for example, all that time is freed up to pursue these spiritual ideals, let's call them. Something we tend to ignore and neglect, but which is the foundation of our existence. And it is also interesting to see how so many of us fall back into the old patterns. Like, for example, let's say we are reading, 3-4 newspapers every morning. Many people do that. And now you'll sit and read all the 3-4 e-versions of the newspaper. You'll watch films endlessly on Netflix, etc., to pass time, so to speak. But as you rightly said, this is an opportunity to break away from that pattern, or maybe contain it within reasonable limits. Don't look to pass time by just being mentally engaged in all these external activities, because then there's no end to it. This is the time for introspection. We have been forced to stay within our four walls. So it is actually the ideal ground to reflect on one's life, reflect on what one has learned on the journey of life. If one has a sadhana, then to deepen that sadhana, that spiritual practice. Whether it's a meditation, then to deepen that. Whether if one enjoys reading books, read more books which gives you insights. So there's actually so much that one can delve into, which will enrich one's life after when one comes out from this phase. It should be utilized in that sense, in that optimum manner possible, to enrich one's own life.
Gautam, for people who have busy jobs in a normal circumstance, they also find themselves working from home, but then now they have spare time where they don't have to travel. So, this time could be used to do things even on the path of Baba, to start, say, doing the artis at home, to read the Sai Sat Charit, to, deepen their bond with Baba. They could even, I remember reading an article of yours on your blog or website a long time ago called Clearing Sadhana.
That's right.
Cleansing one's home, cleansing one's space, maybe doing little things like gardening, putting plants up, flowers, just beautifying your space. So, I feel this time, this extra time that one has, could also be used in the peripheral things around one's practices as well.
That is true, because you see, our vibration is dependent on the content of our consciousness. Okay, so now if during the day we introduce these maybe rituals, you could say, of Aarti, for example, or just sitting in front of our altar for some time, and what happens is the body memory then retains that. So if you have a fixed time in the day, let's say you sit for meditation or you do the Aarti, your body cycle starts adjusting to that, you see. And that is why, again, meditation teachers will say, fix a time for your meditation. Don't do it one day at 7 a.m., one day at 3 p.m. as per your convenience, because you're busy with other things. So you have to fit that into a slot. That creates discipline, and we have so much time that we can do all that now. And then the body follows that. You see, the body follows into that process, that disciplined process, and then everything is set in motion. So it is actually a very good idea to intensify the sadhana, whether it is even reading the Sai Sat Charit, for example, to dedicate, not to do it in case one has extra time, then to open the book and read it. That is doing injustice to it. But to say, okay, I'll keep 15 minutes or whatever, half an hour aside at this time just for this, and nothing else will get in its way. You see, because while you rightly said that some people are working from home, like even I am, but the fact is that the business itself is down. There is much less to do in terms of work unless you are doing online classes in yoga or therapy or whatever. Generally speaking, we all have more time in this phase. What's more, we have to see what all has come up in reaction to this phase, the fears which have come up, because that all has to be looked at. There are reasons why these things happen, the reasons which we cannot comprehend. But whatever surfaces in our mind are reactions not only to what has happened, but our reaction to the people we are caged in with, so to speak, even if they are loved family members. What are the pain points? Which buttons are being pushed? All this has to be looked at, because we tend to brush all this under the carpet and we are always in a reaction mode. We just keep reacting to people in our environment. Now is the time to be still and take a serious look at what's happening in one's life.
Yes.
So definitely setting in routines, spiritual routines, bring in the spiritual vibration, and then that will not end when this phase is over. That can permeate into life and living beyond this, you see. Because you will naturally find an inclination to certain practices or certain things that you have picked up. Today itself, I spoke to two friends who were the last in the line as far as meditation is concerned. They would laugh at it. And this morning, a friend called me and she said she started it and she is enjoying it so much. And the other friend said he started it because his wife is a serious meditator and he kept ignoring it, but now she forced him to meditate. And his meditation is different. He just sits, observes his thoughts, he'll do the mantra jap for 10 minutes, whatever it be. But he's enjoying it, you see. So this is time well utilized.
I have a small recommendation to devotees, a small tool that I've come across over the years. It's an app for the phone called Calm, C-A-L-M. It's a free download and it has many built-in meditations, but it's got a beautiful timer. It even has reminders and it tracks your progress. So if someone wants a silent meditation, they could start with 15 minutes, 30 minutes or whatever they wish and they're comfortable with. But what's beautiful is it tracks your progress and gives you reminders. So I would highly recommend this tool, at least for people who are beginning and they want that sort of discipline you mentioned. This would be something I would highly recommend.
Yes, that's a very good idea, Nick. And you see, coming to the article you mentioned on Clearing Sadhana, which the original title of that essay was Clearing the Clutter. And I am sure many of your audience have already been doing that during this time. Because when we are at home, it is the ideal time to go through our shelves, to remove books which we are no longer going to read, to go through our files and finish our filing. It's ideal for that, things which we have been postponing, you see. That is itself a sadhana, because what happens is you are so present to the activity. Let's say you choose one shelf in your cupboard.
Yes.
For once you have all the time to look at that shelf in detail, each and every item there. See its value to you today. Or are you keeping it because it brings back an old memory? Are you just keeping it because you couldn't be bothered to give it away? Are you keeping it because it's expensive and therefore you don't want to part with it? So see your relationship with the objects in your environment. It's a beautiful spiritual practice actually, and I'm not joking. Clearing space is a spiritual practice, because what is actually happening, you can say that the external is a reflection of the internal. So when you clear space externally, reduce the number of items, reduce the number of items cluttering your space, your mind also is getting decluttered. Why? because there are fewer objects to take care of, fewer objects to think of, and fewer objects to be identified with. So for example, you find 5 watches in your cupboard. Ask yourself, do you really need all 5? Or is it time to give 1 or 2 away? You may decide whatever you feel. I am not saying it's necessary to give them away, but at least reflect on that. Reflect on what has been acquired. Is it needed? Is it not needed? This itself is a sadhana, you see.
Yes.
And let's also remember that ashrams, for example, why are ashram rooms bare? Why are they simple? Simply because of this, because then there's lesser attachment to objects in the environment. That is why they are minimal. Their objects are not needed in that space, because that space is not about objects and attachment to objects. It is going within, inside. And you will find a tremendous shift in your perception when you clear your environment. You will feel it internally. You will also start getting more and more aware of the thoughts in your mind, because even thoughts are objects. They are formless objects in that sense, but they are objects. So a mind which used to be cluttered with so many thoughts, soon you will find that even that space is getting cleared. It's quite beautiful actually.
Gautam, over the last few days, there has been one particular story of Baba's that has been coming up from various sources. It's just been flashing, and I see it's very relevant also to this topic and time. It is before Baba's Mahasamadhi, he gave one of his devotees 9 coins, one of his Mahabhaktas, Lakshmi Bai, and this is said to symbolize the 9 types of devotion. And I felt if devotees can dwell into this story, and they can also see which aspects of their devotion they could work on if they have this extra time.
Yes.
Then, like for example, some devotees find it difficult or don't remember to offer food to Baba before they eat. That could become one goal. For some, it could be doing the 4 aartis every day. Whatever it is, each individual case may be different, but this particular story, and there is a lot of literature online about the 9 types of devotion and this particular story. So I would encourage, it's just a suggestion, if a devotee were to read this and then introspect on their journey, where they are, and now they could utilize this time. And Gautam, we had gone to a very intimate devotee of Baba together. And we had seen her space, her shrine. It was so beautiful, where it was a dedicated space for Baba. And very clearly in this devotee's life, we saw Baba came first in her life.
Yes, and it was beautiful, I recall. And you see, the first thing one picks up is the vibration of the place. You see, because that represents not only the, I think it was a meditation room which she had made, and besides a murti of Baba's, there were some paintings on the wall from what I recall. But just entering that space, you felt a particular vibration. You see, that vibration also represents the person who has been in that space, in which case it is her.
Yes.
You see, so what is happening is, when you develop a space like that in the corner of your home, let's say, where it is a sacred space, you can then really get nourishment from that space. So I would in fact encourage everyone, especially since on the path of Baba, there's a large amount of bhakti involved, and normally I have seen Baba Bhakts definitely have paintings or even murtis of Baba. Why not make that space holy? See what you can do with it. See if you want to put more candles, put incense, organize it in a way where you're not doing your normal activities in front of that space. Develop that sacredness, because that will permeate into your entire home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Gautam, especially in times like this when one is locked down, it may be very depressing for many. just having a jyot lit all 24 hours, having some incense lit, having some camphor lit, or maybe, in fact, we did a project called Voice of Sai. The website is voiceofsai.com, and we have 24 beautiful bhajans recorded by a devotee whose voice is absolutely blessed by Baba.
Oh, I must hear this too.
Yeah, so those chants could be played,
course,
the
of
aartis
course.
could be done, and that just keeps one in constant remembrance of Baba, and almost you are in communion with him.
Not only that, as we said in an earlier talk, you see, chants, etc., entrain the atmosphere, they purify the atmosphere. So, one is, of course, playing it so that one is focused, but it's working on multiple levels. So, to sum this up, I think really because we are so used to doing, we are so used to our normal routines that we tend to do them even at home.
Yes.
We just tend to be too overly occupied. Like I gave the example of, you'll get 8 WhatsApp newspapers and you'll read all of them. Just acquiring news in different formats, or you're wondering what next can you watch on TV. Everything in balance. One should not be looking at, oh God, how do I kill this time? Because that is a real waste. But why not honor that time? See, Nick, we all have a limited number of years on the planet. Our last breath is predetermined. Okay? Now the point is, why not spend that time well? And if you are a Baba Bhakt, what does it mean to spend that time well? It means to spend that time focused on Baba, either on Baba as the form, either on Baba as a teaching, or Baba as a way of living his teaching. There are so many ways. So, instead of frittering away the time, set yourself a routine. By all means, do your walk on your terrace or in your compound if you're allowed to. Read 1 or 2 papers if you enjoy it on your email, no harm. Balance is the key. And earnestness in your devotion to the divine. That, if that is struck during this time, not only will this time be passing well, but like I say, from this point on till whenever your last day is on the planet, you will look back and thank yourself for having given the time and space to your spiritual practice.
This time, Gautam, as you said, will not come again. So, if one can make the most of it, go in deeper, then could be the greatest opportunity, because to get so much time like this it doesn't come every day.
It doesn't come every 10 years.
Exactly. And also, for many people in cities, it's a lot quieter. One can hear nature, hear the birds. In many places, most parts of the world, due to the lockdown, even the environment is a lot cleaner and quieter. So for meditation, it's much more conducive. So thank you, Gautam.
My pleasure, Nick. I always enjoy these talks.
Thank you. Likewise. I hope the audience does too. And please take care, everybody, and stay safe. And may Baba's blessings be on all of his children.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.